We're going to try to solve the problem, how many inches long is a 100-yard football field? And as always, we start with our known and our unknown. What we know that a football field is 100 yards in length. But we're also given two other bits of information. We know that 1 foot equals 12 inches, and we also know that 1 yard equals 3 feet. These are all the things that the problem gives us. Now for the unknowns, what don't we know? Well, they're asking us how many inches. So for them to ask us how many inches, that means we don't know inches. So we must come up with a plan to find out the inches. And a perfectly good plan is to use conversion factors to convert or switch between yards and inches. But we have a slight problem. We can convert between feet and inches using those two conversion factors, and we can even convert between yards and feet using the bottom two conversion factors. But how can we convert between yards and inches? We need to come up with a new plan. We're going to build a path that will take us from yards to inches. Think of it as a journey. Since we know the yards, it's 100 yards, but we don't know the inches, then we're going to have to begin at what we know, yards, and we're going to eventually end at inches. And this is how our journey will unfold, beginning with our known, beginning with yards, and ending with inches. But there will be some steps in between. We're going to start with yards, because that's what we know. Now, 1 yard equals 3 feet. We know that this is given to us. Now, feet connects with feet. Therefore, I'm going to draw the connection made by the feet. Now, we also know that 1 foot equals 12 inches. And this is how our journey plays out. We start with yards, and then we go to feet, and finally we go to inches. So we started with yards, then we went to feet, then we went to inches. And the diagram on the bottom shows us how it all links together. We started with yards. 1 yard equals 3 feet. And feet connects to feet. Finally, 1 foot equals 12 inches. So you can see all of the quantities, all of the numbers are connected. And that's why we can start with yards, we can go to feet, and then we can go to inches. And that is what our journey, our path will look like, taking us from yards to inches. Now we can go back to our original plan, which was to use conversion factor to convert or switch from yards to inches. And we have our path to help us. Our first step, we're going to turn our known length into a fraction. We know yards. We're going to start with yards. So we're going to turn 100 yards into a fraction like that. Now our next step is to use a conversion factor to go from yards to feet. Because as we look at our path, we start with yards and we're going to go to feet. So we look up here at our known equalities and we ask ourselves, which one is going to help us go from yards to feet? And it's this one. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to figure out the conversion factors. The first conversion factor is going to be 1 yard divided by 3 feet. And our second conversion factor, because all equalities have 2 conversion factors, It's going to be 3 feet divided by 1 yard. We must use the conversion factor that puts what we know on the bottom. Now, we know yards. That's given to us in the problem. We know yards. Now, over here, yards is on top. We cannot use that one. We need to use the one that puts what we know on the bottom. So, if we look at this conversion factor, it puts yards, what we know, on the bottom. So, we choose this conversion factor and we're going to move it right up here, and we will write 3 feet divided by 1 yard. Now look what happens when we multiply. We have yards on top and we have yards on the bottom, and this will cause them to cancel. So the only thing we're left with now is feet, because yards canceled. So now that we went from yards to feet and yards canceled out, we can now go from feet to inches. Now when we look over here and we see the relationship between feet and inches, 1 foot equals 12 inches. So let's take this and find our conversion factors. We can use either 1 foot divided by 12 inches, or we can do 12 inches divided by 1 foot. And once again, we have to pick one. And we always pick the one that puts what we know on the bottom. So what do we know? Well, we went from yards to feet. We know feet. We just figured out feet. Therefore, we have to use this conversion factor because it puts feet, what we know, on the bottom. And we're going to throw that one away. So we take this one and we're going to bring this over, and we're going to write 12 inches divided by 1 foot. And then once again we multiply, and since I have feet on top and on the bottom, you can probably guess what's going to happen next. Feet are going to cancel. Feet are canceled. And all that's left over are inches. And finally, for our last step, we're going to multiply everything together to get our final answer in inches. That's what our final answer will be, and that will be the end of our destination. So we multiply all the numbers across the top. 100 times 3 times 12 inches gives us 3,600 inches on top. And now we multiply everything on the bottom. 1 times 1 times 1, giving us 1. And our final answer in inches is going to be 3,600 inches. So how many inches long is a 100-yard football field? And our answer is 3,600 inches, and our unknown is now known.